starting in the AL East, where the Chalk, the Yankees, have undergone some serious health concerns. They're still listed as the favorites in the division, but I'll call your attention to Boston, Tom, whose stock is rising. A lot of experts think they have what it takes to kind of sneak into the discussion this year. Where do you have the Red Sox?
Let's start with the toughest division to call, in my book anyway. I was torn on this one, but I did land on the Boston Red Sox to win the AL East. I'll tell you why. They had a great offseason. When you think about Garrett Crochet, Walker Buehler, pushing some of the younger, good arms they have in their rotation a little deeper, and Bregman in the offense. I just love their winter, and also knowing that it's not just about Christian Campbell. You've got Roman Anthony sitting there. You got Marcelo Mayer sitting there. They have this core of young players who are now just knocking on the door. So from a depth standpoint, Boston's going to get better as the year goes on.
Yeah, I can't agree with that, too, and I like the Red Sox a ton. This was a tough division to call, Matty. I'm going to go with the Orioles. I mean, I look at certain criteria for me for a team that wins. And when I look at the Orioles, I think they've set up perfectly to match that. They have star players that I think are about to take the next step in their career. And the key to that one is Adley Rutschman to team with Gunnar Henderson to be like the co-superstar on that team. And then Westbrook and Holiday and Kowser, all this group of young players ready to take this next step. And this sense of urgency. It takes a while, Tom, to learn how to win at the major league level. I think they're very, very well positioned to take that next step this year.
Felix Bautista, the mountain back at the end of the game. Can I interest anybody in Toronto at plus 1,200? Get me to the window with an alias, as I like to say. Let's go to the AL West, where, you know, things are jumbled up at the top. A lot of parity here, too. However, this guy could be a real wild card. If Jacob deGrom is the superhero of years past, is that enough to put the Rangers up top?
And not even a superhero. Just give me 20 to 25 starts, okay? Because you know he's going to be good as long as he's healthy. I'm banking on Texas winning this division because of a healthier deGrom. Don't forget, you've got Jack Leiter, you've got Kumar Rocker, you've got Tyler Mahle. They have pitchers who have incredibly high upsides. Just got to get them to the mound enough. Offense was brutal last year. You don't realize this. Last year against fastballs, they were the worst slugging team in baseball. The Texas Rangers. You know, they had Jock Peterson. They had Jake Berger. This team, a bounce back from Adolis Garcia. To me, they're back. They're full-on back. I like the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, Tom and I are in agreement on this one. I think, for me, there's not another team in that division that has a higher ceiling than the Rangers. Their bullpen is the one major question mark, but they've got a manager in Boch that actually does wonders, putting guys in role, gaining confidence in the bullpen, getting that connected chain in place. Thought Chris Young had a great offseason in his acquisition. And to me, it's Corey Seager is the key, because he's got the MVP ability. If he comes back and performs the way he did when they won the World Series, I just think it lifts the water in that boat for everybody else.
Plus, if you like the hocus pocus around Bruce Bochy and the every other year philosophy, we're in an every other year. Let's go to the Central, where the Tigers caught fire in August of 2024 and rode it out, nearly getting all the way through. Was that momentum they established enough, and can they continue it in 2025?
I'm buying Tigers stock. I thought those 2 months, Matt, were more of who they were than a anomaly, if you will, because this, to me, could be the best pitching staff in baseball. I'm talking 1 through 13. They just come at you with stuff every night of the week, every inning of a game. And I saw last year Parker Meadows got healthy. Torkelson gave them something. Kerry Carpenter's a huge key for me. He's an impact bat. He came back. So I wish they had a little more offense. They remind me a little bit of Seattle, where they have great pitching and maybe short on offense. But to me, their pitching is that good, Dan. I'm going with the Tigers to come back and win the Central.
You know, to me, whoever wins this division, I think is going to be in the mid to high 80s. So I think there are multiple teams that can do that in this division. For me, the most talented roster in the division, top to bottom, is the Twins. I'm not picking the Twins because I don't know about the durability tied to the talent. But really, their roster is deeper than any team within the division. I'm going to stay with Kansas City a year ago. I think they've got the best player, or if not the best player, one of the top 3 players in the game in Bobby Witt. I love the acquisition of Jonathan India at the top of the lineup. I just think they did a lot of neat things, and they got a taste of what it's like to win. And I don't think they're going to turn that back this year.
I tell you, BetMGM sees it as a 4-way coin flip. I mean, you talk about parity. It's jumbled up in the Central as well. Let's go to the National League here and start in the National League West. First of all, a snapshot glance of what we all think is going to happen in the American League. Like I said before, we don't always get it right. I got the Yankees in the East, by the way. They're going to survive the injuries. They're going to make a deal. They're going to get another big starter. We forgot about Devin Williams as the big ad at the back of the bullpen. So there it is. We all agree on Texas in the AL West. Let's now go to the National League, where we would all agree on the Dodgers. So let's pose a different question to you, and I'll start with you, Dan. Which team poses the biggest threat to the 11 division titles in 12 years that the Dodgers have established?
I don't think there's any team that poses a threat to that. If there's a team that can push them, to me, it's the Diamondbacks. You got to keep in mind this team led baseball in runs scored a year ago. They did lose Walker and they did lose Peterson, but they've got Naylor back, and they've got Corbin Carroll, who's a legitimate MVP candidate, and they added Corbin Burns to their rotation. So it's a team that plays as one. They're highly competitive. They run the bases well. They play defense well. They execute the fundamental part of the game well. So I'm not sure they can challenge the Dodgers. I think they might be able to push them a little bit.
I would agree. I think it's probably at least a 10-win gap, which is a lot. I mean, the Dodgers, to me, look like a 103-win team. They're just so deep. They can withstand injuries. Arizona is a 90-plus win team for me. You mentioned their offense, the best in baseball last year. You're putting Burns at the front of that rotation. Zach Gallen, he could win a Cy Young Award any year. He's that good. So the sleeper to me are the Giants. They've been mediocre for 3 straight years. Buster Posey taking control there. If they get anything from Robbie Ray and Justin Verlander, veteran Cy Young winners coming back, maybe they make 20 starts each, 20 to 25. That team is going to make some noise.
Good point, Tom. And I will say, jumping in on that, Matty, the Giants' bullpen, as it sits for me on paper, is the best bullpen in that division. It's a deep, deep bullpen with a lot of great.
Better than Dodgers.
It is a better bullpen than the Dodgers for me.
Let's go to the NL East, rather. We'll get to the Central in a moment because the parity thing is the same in both Centrals. In the East, it feels like a 3-way slugfest. Atlanta, Philly, and the Mets, they're getting all the run. How do you distinguish? Who's your guy, your team, rather, in that division?
I'm going to say the Phillies. First of all, I think there's a heightened sense of urgency in Philadelphia. I think the window is beginning to close a little bit. They've got older players. They've got players at the end of this year that are going to be free agents. I like their pitching staff. I think their pitching staff, I could make an argument, Tom, it's the best starting rotation in the National League, and I think they're going to post up. And I will say, I think the bullpen has question marks, but every team in that division has some question marks in how they constructed their roster.
Yeah, it's a really tough call because, like you, I love the Phillies, the vibe there. I do think the window is starting to close. They don't mind the urgency. They'll answer to that. Atlanta just are getting back a Cy Young quality guy in Strider and an MVP in Acuna Jr. I mean, what other team had a better winter just getting healthy? But I'm going to go with the New York Mets. I think they have this true momentum from last year that they built. And adding Juan Soto to the mix. You've got Soto, Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso. These guys love to play every single day. They're like, no, I don't need a day off. I want to be in the lineup. And I love that vibe out of this Mets team. And I think their pitching is better than people think. Again, I still think job one for them, go get yourself an ace. But I think depth-wise, for 6 months, they're good.
Is your pick of the Mets based on the roster on paper as it exists right now, or does it assume an acquisition of a Sandy Alcantara or somebody?
It's basically right now. If I'm looking at the Mets getting through October, because you're going to have to get through that staff of the Phillies or the Braves or the Dodgers, that's going to be hard to do without a true ace. But for 162, yeah, I like the roster right now.
All right, to the Central. And as we mentioned, parity is the theme in the American League and especially in the National League Central. Everybody's kind of hyper-obsessing about the Reds, and they're a sexy pick for so many of us. Terry Francona's influence is going to be obvious. They get Matt McClain back. Where do you have Cincinnati?
I've got them pushing the Cubs, and I've got the Brewers right there, too. I think Cincinnati has a great young core of players. I love their starting rotation. I think Terry Francona has an effect on teams that you can't quantify or measure analytically. I think the Brewers have as good a young position core. I think Cheerio could be an MVP candidate. Sal Frelick is turning into a superstar for me right in front of my eyes. But I think the Cubs have the best roster and the deepest roster right now. I think Kyle Tucker gives them a legitimate aircraft carrier that they have not had in their lineup. And so I think they should win the division, but I tell you what, I would not be shocked if either of those other two teams do.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the Reds, and I'll tell you why. Every year when I make picks, I realize that every year there's at least one, usually 2 teams that had a losing record the year before that get into the postseason. And the Reds fit the profile perfectly because they were so bad in one-run games last year. Those things tend to turn around. Yep. And they have a new manager. Not just a new manager, one of the best ever, right, in Terry Francona. Those are difference makers right there. And now you're talking about Elly De La Cruz, who could be an MVP. I mean, he struck out 213 times last year. If he just cuts down those strikeouts a little bit, my goodness, his ceiling is so high. So the Reds, to me, are one of those dangerous teams loaded with prime talent. I'm talking ages 26 to 29. They have a lot of players in that sweet spot. A little bit of experience, but old enough to be hitting their prime.
I know it's only spring, but it appeared that Ellie has made some adjustments in cutting down the strikeouts in the Grapefruit League season, the Cactus League season, that is. So a snapshot glance of our National League picks. We're all in agreement on the Dodgers. That's not exactly stopping any presses. And that's the only division where we have reached a agreement. All right, from sleepers to World Series favorites, where the Dodgers, according to BetMGM, are the talk of the town, certainly in the betting community at plus 240. They are the overwhelming favorite and the shortest shots on the board. So for our next exercise, because the Dodgers are such heavy favorites for understandable reasons, let's pretend like they all get locked in their hotel rooms for 162 days and they can't play.
That means we can't pick the Dodgers.
Can't pick the Dodgers. As a World Series matchup and winner, I'll start this. And I'm going to say from the American League, it's going to be the Boston Red Sox. From the National League, it's going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I've got the Boston Red Sox hoisting the Commissioner's Trophy on the bus, on the duck boat, with a very different looking cast of characters as to what's been there the last couple of years. They've got one of the best managers in the sport who I think doesn't get enough credit, and I've got the Red Sox as World Series champs.
You know, we agree on the American League representative. I've got the Red Sox, too, going to the World Series, even though I did not pick them to win the division. But I'm going to say in the National League, I think it's going to be the year for the Phillies to get over the top. I think that there's a sense of urgency in Philadelphia. I think they've got the best starting rotation in the game. I think they play the Red Sox in the World Series, and I think the trophy goes to the Philadelphia Phillies.
Bum's not wearing his seatbelt there, though, clearly. I'm not sure about that. Tom?
Just to be clear, this is just in case somebody knocks off the 105-win LA Dodgers.
Right, correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right, I'm going to go with the Rangers and the Mets in the World Series. Yeah, I'm having Jacob deGrom come back and pitch in Citi Field, but I have the Mets winning the World Series. It's been a long time, guys. 1986 was a long, long time ago for the Mets to have that parade in Canyon of Heroes. So, yeah, Rangers, Mets, World Series for me without the Dodgers.
I can't help but notice who's in the middle window for you, Tom, because he's not property of the Mets yet. What are you saying?
You caught that, didn't you?
I did. What are you saying?
They need him to win the World Series. Maybe not to get there, but to win the World Series, yes.
What happens in New York if in back-to-back years the Yankees lose a World Series and the Mets win one? Is that going to flip the town?
Well, you already had Juan Soto leave to go across town. That was the beginning of flipping the switch. Yeah. How would that go over in the Bronx?
I don't know. How would they even decorate the Canyon of Heroes? That's very strange stuff. We've landed on most valuable players, and there's some pretty good candidates that we just saw in that little piece of video. Yeah. Dan, let's start in the American League. Give me an MVP pick. For me, it's Bobby Witt Jr. You know, Tom, when I look at the evolution of him as a player and I think of MVP, a couple things jump out. One is you got to be durable. He started 161 games a year ago. Number two is that you got to bring energy to the ballpark. He does that every day. His evolution as a hitter for me over the last 3 years goes directly to this board. His contact rate's gone up. His exit velocity rate's gone up. His walks have come up. His strikeouts come down. So when you do that and you combine that with what we're going to see in this video, you get an elite player. So, Tom, tell me what you see when you see him, because what I see is just an explosive offensive player.
I love that chart you showed, the improvement, because that pitch to me, his biggest improvement, because pitchers used to get him out on fastballs up. He made the adjustment with his posture in the box and got on top of that. And now you're seeing, Dan, this is a guy who could leave any part of the baseball field.
Yeah, I mean, again, and he hits all kind of pitching. I think it's even going to be better this year with Jonathan India hitting in front of him. But I will say, Vinny Pasquantino needs to stay healthy behind him, because I would not pitch to this young man if I had an opportunity to pitch around him. So now we're going to get into the other two parts of his game. You want to see his greatest growth? Look at his defensive growth over the last 2 years. Won a Gold Glove last year. And it's not just that he can make spectacular plays, Tom. He now makes the routine plays exceptionally well, as again we'll see in the video. Look at the physicality here, by the way. Routine play. Sets his feet, doesn't overthrow the ball. And oh, by the way, best arm strength in the game at this position. Ouch. Flat-footed, falling back, throws a seed to first base. Athleticism for the position. Look at the closing speed on that play. So really, Tom, just a fantastic player defensively, and again brings the energy to his defensive part of the game that's infectious for the players around him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the speed on the bases as well. I mean, this guy does everything that reminds me of a prime Mike Trout. I say that because I see his athleticism on the field, and I'm saying, who else on a baseball field on a nightly basis do you see this package of skills? That's when I saw Mike Trout making plays in the outfield, hitting 450-foot bombs and stealing bags. I'm now seeing Bobby Witt do those kind of things. And as Dan said, he plays every darn day. So I'm with you. It's hard to pick against a guy who last year had an unbelievable year and I think is just keeps getting better.
You know, Matty, one of the criteria I have for an MVP, does he make the players around him better? So is he a great player, but does he raise the level of play of everybody else around him? At 23 years old, this young man actually did that for his team last year, and there's no doubt he'll do it again this year.
I don't know that we've done a prediction show in the last 5 years where somebody hasn't said, at least one person, Aaron Judge. You guys both have Bobby Witt. He is one of the shorter shots on the board. In fact, right there with Aaron Judge as a betting favorite at plus money. You got to go to plus 800 to find Gunnar Henderson, Corey Seager, Vlad Guerrero Jr., the favorites in the AL MVP race. Let's talk about the National League. We have to put the disclaimer on it that whenever Shohei Ohtani does both, whenever he pitches and hits, he's always in line to be an MVP candidate. Does he make it a fourth in the last 5 years? Does it hinge on his pitching? Because last year he won an MVP just as a DH. Oh, just as a DH with massive numbers. Give me a National League MVP pick.
Well, it has to be Shohei because I think, Matt, he's going to start, say, 15 times, and he's going to hit 40-plus home runs. That's an MVP. Who else is going to have the kind of numbers he's going to put up? Now, he's not going to steal 50 bases because he is going to pitch. We'll probably see him by the end of May. And I think he's going to be dominant when he's on the mound.
So let's do this exercise then, because I think we'd all agree that he's the guy. If Shohei Ohtani gets locked in his hotel room for 6 months and he's not eligible, who's the National League MVP?
I'm going to go to Juan Soto, and I'll tell you why. It's not just because of the contract. I look at where he's hitting in a great lineup, where he's got a switch hitter, Francisco Lindor, on-base machine in front of him, and a power-hitting right-hander, Pete Alonso, behind him. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to drive in runs. And again, like Bobby Witt Jr., he's in the lineup every day. So he's going to have a ton of opportunities on a really good offensive team. And I think he's the surest thing in baseball when it comes to performance. Even his bad years are great.
I struggle with this one because Tom brought it up earlier in the show. If Elly De La Cruz can cut a strikeout rate 10, 15, even 20%, I think he legitimately puts himself in the conversation of MVP. But I'm going to go Mookie Betts. If Mookie Betts can duplicate his 2023 year where he hit 307 with a 409 on base and 819 slug with 39 home runs as a shortstop, that if he can just play the position as an average shortstop, I think he legitimately puts himself in the position of winning the MVP.
Betts, Soto, Elly, Shohei. I think we'd all agree that Shohei's the chalk, but it'll be fun to see how it plays out.